Hello, everyone. My name is Teacher Joel. I am an English teacher from Canada, and I've been teaching in Japan and Taiwan for almost 10 years. I'm a freelance teacher right now. I teach many different classes. I teach business class. I teach open conversation class, theme classes, and news article classes. And I just wanted to go over my news class with you and show you how I teach. Hopefully you will join me in the future. So let's get started. All right, so today's article we're gonna look at is about Squid Game. Squid Game, of course, is the very popular show on Netflix that many people have watched. Okay. Squid Game clothes in high demand worldwide. Now, in this class, I'm going to highlight key vocabulary words, and then I'm going to review other ways and other vocabulary words we can use in this situation. So, for example, here, in the word clothes, another word we could use is attire. Attire is similar to like a uniform that people would wear. So you'll notice in Squid Game that the characters wear the same clothes. The players wear the green tracksuits, and the bad guys wear the pink jumpsuits. We'll talk more about that later in class. People around the world are trying to get hold of clothes worn by characters in the hugely popular South Korean TV series Squid Game. Okay, so there's a couple words that I want to highlight here. So let's go back to our vocabulary list. Now, another way we can say trying, we could also say attempting to. Okay, so people are trying to get these clothes. People are attempting to get these clothes. So try and attempt are synonyms. That's what we focus on in this class that I teach, is building vocabulary. What are other words we can use to describe the same word? This is a great way to build your vocabulary. So yes, another way to say trying is attempting to. Now, let's go down to another phrase in this paragraph when we look back here. Get hold of. Get hold of. Now, another phrase we could use here is get their hands on. Both of these phrases are a bit more informal, but both of them just mean people are trying to get them. So, for example, the new iPhone, the iPhone 13, I think is very popular these days. So we could say many people are trying to get hold of the new iPhone, or people are trying to get their hands on the new iPhone. Hugely. Okay, so hugely here, we could also say massively. So hugely popular, massively popular. Hugely and massively just mean like very, very, very big. So of course, Squid Game has been hugely popular since it was released almost 2 months ago on Netflix. In particular, the made in Korea green tracksuits and pink jumpsuits from the show are in huge demand as a Halloween costume. Okay, so one of the phrases here I want to look at is in particular. Now here we could say specifically. Now, guys, when we pronounce this word here, we do not pronounce the A sound. We don't say specifically. We say specifically, specifically. So we don't pronounce the A in this word. Now, I just wanted to take a quick minute here to explain the difference between a tracksuit and a jumpsuit. Now, both are very, very similar. And I've got a picture here that we could look at. So for example, this here is a tracksuit. So a tracksuit usually is a long sleeved sweatshirt and long pants. So there's two pieces of clothing here. And a jumpsuit is more of like just one piece of clothing. So they're very similar, but that's the difference between a tracksuit. A tracksuit is two pieces of clothing, and a jumpsuit is just one full piece of clothing with long pants and long sleeves. Very similar though. Okay. And I want to take a look at this word here, costume. So a costume is a set of clothes worn for, whoops, teacher Joel, I can't type here. Worn in a TV show, we could say performance, or an event such as Halloween. So, Halloween was just a few weeks ago, and during this, lots of kids like to get dressed up as things such as ghosts or pirates or zombies. So that's what a costume is. Internet stores worldwide have been flooded with orders. Now, the word I want to focus on in this sentence here is flooded. Flooded means, in this context, to receive a lot suddenly. So we could say slammed, or we could say swamped. Both of these mean to receive a lot at one time. Of course, this show is very, very popular, and Halloween, like I said, was just a few weeks ago. And so many, many people wanted to dress up as characters from Squid Game. And so there was a huge demand for this style of costumes, and factories received a lot of orders suddenly for this costume. So we could say flooded, slammed, and swamped. Okay? Now, guys, I just want to look at the pronunciation here. If you look, slammed, slammed. Now, this is a D sound, slammed. But if we look at this word here, swamped, swamped. So this is a T sound, and this is a D sound, okay? Now, both spelled with the letters ED, so they're spelled the same, but it's a different pronunciation. Garment factories in South Korea are struggling to make enough clothes to keep up with demand. Okay, so let's go back to our notes here. Now, a garment is just a piece of clothing. Could be a shirt, could be pants, could be a sweatshirt, a jacket. But yes, a garment is just a piece of clothing. Now, let's go down to here where it says struggling to. So garment factories in South Korea are struggling to make enough of the clothes to keep up with demand. Now, struggling to. we could say having a hard time with. So both of these phrases mean that like this is difficult, okay? So we could say, teacher, I'm really struggling with my homework. Could you help me? Or you could say, teacher, I'm having a hard time with my homework. Could you help me? So yeah, both of these just mean you're going through a difficult experience at this time. And I want to focus on this word here too, make. Now, in this context here, make, we could say produce, or we could say manufacture. Now, the reason we could use this word here is because these clothes are coming from a factory, okay? We're going to talk more about that in a minute here. Now, one more phrase I want to go over. Keep up with demand. This is a great example. In English, and maybe any language, but me personally, I feel that less is better. One of the bad habits a lot of students have is they use so many words and unnecessary words when they can use fewer words and describe the same thing. This is a perfect example. Keep up with. 3 words. In this context here, we could just say meet, okay? They're not able to keep up with demand, or they are not able to meet demand. Clothes factory owner Kim Jin-ja from Seoul said, October is usually a slow month for the sewing industry, but thanks to Squid Game and Halloween, we are scrambling to sew enough clothes. Okay, now the word I want to focus right now is on usually. Now, another way we could say usually is typically. And like we spoke about earlier here when we talked about the word specifically, okay? It's the same down here. We don't say typically, we say typically. Typically. Thanks to Squid Game and Halloween. We are scrambling. Scrambling. Now here, we could use the word rushing. Scrambling and rushing mean that when something happens very suddenly and you are not prepared to handle this, you need to scramble. You need to rush to make sure you are able to do what you are supposed to do. So this factory, when we look back here, the owner of the factory, was saying October is usually a slow month for the sewing industry. Slow month means not that busy. Different businesses have different periods when they are busy and when they are not busy. So this factory owner is saying, for us, October is usually like a quiet month. We don't have as many orders as we do in other months. But because of Squid Game, all of a sudden, there has been a huge demand for these tracksuits and jumpsuits that people want to wear for Halloween. So they have to kind of rush and make these clothes very quickly. She added, we are now sewing 6,000 green tracksuits for toddlers and children. Squid Game is a survival drama series created by Hwang Dong-hyuk. And I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that name incorrectly. My Korean pronunciation is not that great. I do apologize. Now, I want to focus on this word here, series. Now, a series is a television show with multiple episodes. Now, an episode, another word you might be familiar with is chapter or part. So there's episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. I believe Squid Game has 10 episodes. But yes, a series is a television show with multiple episodes. And I just want to make a note of this here for you. Multiple means more than one. And another way we could say created in this context here, we could say is developed. So this, the creator of Squid Game, they developed it or they created this series. It was first broadcast on Netflix on September the 17th. Now, I want to focus on this word here, broadcast, okay? Now, broadcast can be both a noun and it can be a verb. In this context here, it is used as a verb. Now, another way we could say broadcast, two different ways we could say aired or released. Basically, these words just all mean that they were shown on September the 17th. It has since become a global hit and is Netflix's most watched series ever. Okay, I want to take a look at this word here, global. Global. Now, another way we could say global is worldwide. Worldwide. And I also want to take a look at this word here, ever. Now, another way we could say ever is of all time. So for example, I could say Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player ever. Or I could also say Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time. So in this context, both mean the same thing, of course. It reached number 1 in 90 countries, including the United States. Netflix estimated that over 142 million people watched Squid Game in the 28 days following its release. Okay, so there's a couple of words I want to go over here with you. The first word I want to go over is estimated. So another word we could use here in this context is calculated. Okay, now both of these words mean similar to guess. Now, the difference between estimated, calculated, and guessed is that when we use the word estimate and calculate, we at least have some information we use before we guess, okay? Whereas a guess is like, we don't have any information at all. A guess is just like, I don't know, I think it's this. It's just a total guess. Whereas if we estimate or calculate something, we at least have some background information before we guess. So that's the difference between estimate, calculate, and guess. They're similar, but a bit different. Okay, so Netflix estimated that, over. So over, we could just say more than. Okay, that one's pretty simple. That one's pretty straightforward there. So over 142 million people watched Squid Game in the 28 days following its release. Following, we could just say after, okay? So following dinner, we will have some delicious cocktails. Or we could say after dinner, we will have some delicious cocktails. So following and after, same meaning here. This series is about a contest between 456 players who are in a lot of debt. Now, guys, before we go on to the vocabulary, I just want to focus on this word here, debt, D-E-B-T. Now, if you'll notice, we don't pronounce the B sound. We don't say debet, okay? Debt. So the B is silent, debt, debt. So I want to focus on this word here, contest. How else could we say contest? Well, another way we could say contest is just a competition. Both of these are events where either two people play against each other or a team plays against each other. In Squid Game, of course, there's only one winner, but sometimes people are playing as a team. If you saw Squid Game, you'll know that some players work together as a team and they compete against each other. So yeah, a contest and a competition is basically just a game where people play against each other. Between 456 players. Now, I want to focus on this word here, players. So another word we could use for players is contestants, okay? So if you participate in a game or a contest, you're a player or you are a contestant. Usually we use this word like in a game show. A game show is something you might have seen on TV where people answer questions or do certain challenges to win money, much like they do in Squid Game. So yes, another way to say players is contestants. Now, we talked about this word earlier, but just the pronunciation, are in a lot of debt. Now, are in a lot of debt just means owe a lot of money, okay? So debt is money that you owe. So for example, if you go shopping and you use your Visa card to buy a new jacket, okay? After you use your credit card to purchase or buy that jacket, you have some debt. You need to pay back that money. So debt is money that you owe. And people have debt for several reasons. Credit card debt, school debt, debt, people borrow money from the bank to, open up their business, to buy a car, lots of reasons. But debt is just money that you owe. So are in a lot of debt, or we could say owe a lot of money. They all play children's games to try to win they all play children's games to try to win a $40 million prize to get out of debt. Now, guys, I just wanted to explain this really quickly because a lot of my students that I teach make this mistake. They'll say 40 million, okay? Now, it's important that we say $40 million because we're talking about money, okay? So make sure to take notice of this here. $40 million. We don't say 40 million, we say $40 million. Okay, now, in this sentence here, I wanted to focus on this word, to get out of. Earlier, I talked about how less is better. Less is better. If you can express or say something with fewer words, do it, okay? So in this context here, we could just say escape, okay? They want to get out of their debt. They want to escape their debt. However, the simple games could result in their death. Yes, in Squid Game, of course, a lot of the characters are killed when they fail to complete their challenge, or to complete the challenge, I should say. So I want to focus on this word here, simple. Now, another way to say simple, we could just say is basic. So this test is very simple, or we could say this test is very basic. Both of these words mean easy, okay? Like they're easy, they're simple, they're basic. They don't require a lot of thinking. Now, result in. We could say here, lead to, okay? This means that if you do something, it could lead to this action or result in this action. So if you eat healthy and exercise, you will lose weight, okay? So exercise results in weight loss. Exercise leads to weight loss. Squid Game is another example of South Korean culture becoming popular around the world following K-pop and K-dramas. Okay, so I just want to focus on this word here, example. So here we could say sign, okay? Example or sign means to show something, okay? So a lot of times when I'm teaching, I will give my students an example of something to help them better understand. So here we could say example, or we could say sign. Of South Korean culture becoming popular around the world. Now, one more word I want to focus on here is around. Another way we could say around is throughout. Okay, so there are many beautiful places around the world I want to visit. There are many beautiful places throughout the world that I want to visit. Okay, so guys, I hope you enjoyed tonight's lesson. This is just a very, very quick lesson. I hope I can be your teacher. When I do teach this lesson, I go into much, much more detail, but I just wanted to quickly introduce myself and just show you just a, like a quick video on how I teach this class. It's great for pronunciation. It's great for listening, speaking. You can ask Teacher Joel questions, and it's great for growing your vocabulary, but most importantly, it is very good for using the proper vocabulary in context. And what I mean by that is using the right vocabulary for the right situation. A bad habit a lot of English learners have, and some of my students have, is that they just use Google Translate. They'll see a word, they'll just use Google Translate, and then they'll say, oh, teacher, is it this? Well, that's the meaning of that word, but not in this context. So this class is really to help you understand like a natural way to speak English and using vocabulary words in the correct context, which is much, much, much more important than just learning big words, but not being able to use them correctly. So thanks for watching this video. I hope that we can meet soon, whether it's online or in class, and we can work together. I'll speak to you soon. Thank you and bye-bye.